What's happening, everybody? I'm your host, RJ Carbone, and you're listening to episode 424 of the podcast. Maybe you're watching. Welcome to BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We also do MMA too. Yanks every series, Knicks every game, MMA on occasion. But we did recap every game of the postseason for the Yankees this year, except for Game 3. I just couldn't do it after that. And this really isn't going to be a Game 4 recap either, but I just want to briefly give my thoughts on where the Yankees need to go from here, why it's gone wrong, and that's it. We're going to wrap this up after hopefully 20, 30 minutes tops. Welcome to the episode. Welcome to the podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Let's really not try to waste too much time because the bottom line is the Yanks are going to Cancun. They are now available to hit the golf course, go on vacation, do whatever they want to do now because they're out. So the Yanks go to Cancun. They are officially allowed to go to vacation now and just chill because they're out of the playoffs. And I am a big, I was going to say I'm not a big I told you so person, but I am a big I told you so person. It feeds my ego when I'm right. But I wish I wasn't right in this case. Though I did tell you people. I did say back in early April I said it. I hammered it in June. I said watch out for the Houston Astros because this Yankees team, it still doesn't look like they have enough to go that far. And I hammered that point in June, in the middle of June, after the Yankees completed that 4-game set against Houston where they somehow split because a couple of lucky swings. I nailed that point home. I got into a little bit of a Facebook debate on my Facebook page, BD4, and with one of my good buddies who lives down the street from me. And I was telling him, dude, this team isn't it. They can't beat Houston. Houston's in their heads, and Houston is miles better. And he was telling me the Yankees are miles better than Houston because at the time they were on a 120-win pace, and despite them losing a couple games to the Astros, he still thought that the Yankees were the superior team just because he was living in the moment and he thinks that the Yankees were just hitting a rough patch. But I'm like, no, it's the same structure. They have the same philosophy, and this team is just going to end up doing the same thing in the ALCS when they get there, play the Houston Astros, and probably go home. But the thing is, I was wrong because I thought the Yankees would at least compete. And the Yankees got swept. They got swept on their own field in 2 of those 4 games. So let's talk about it. Going to head to a quick break. I've got some things to say, and we'll get into the thick of things because I'm going to be cutthroat, straight to the point here. Hey guys, so if you are a listener of the podcast often, and you want to know where to find me on social media, you can find me on Facebook at BD4. You can find me on Twitter at BD4Pod. And you can also find me on Instagram at RobJCarbone. Cashman has to go. It's time to shake it up. It has not worked. This whole thing started out in 2017, the baby bombers. And it literally, we haven't seen a unit as good and as passionate since that 2017 team. Every team since then has, I don't want to say they've regressed each year since, because that's a narrative that I hear and I don't like, because they've had some better teams, some good teams, some worse teams. But 2018, 19, 20, 21, and this year's 2022 team, each of them, in my opinion, loses to that 2017 team. But the bottom line is we continue to lose. Since then, it's not worked. Well, since 2009 or 2010. But bottom line is Cashman is assembling the same type of roster every single year with the same exact philosophy. Because he's got the same exact people in his room telling him what to do. These nerds, they gotta go. These loser Princeton, Yale, Harvard University geeks in the front office on their tablets with their spreadsheets open, it has got to stop. The idea that you can build a championship roster, a championship contender, around old, washed-up, injury-prone veterans, sub-250 hitters, guys who come to the plate with two things on their mind, either trying to pull one 500 feet for a home run or take perfect pitches trying to purposely walk. That idea is bullshit. Because God forbid you get guys who pick up base hits once in a while. How dare you think about the single? Because the single's so bad. This 3 true outcome idea is poison. It's poison. And it's developed this team where it feels like all they know how to do is slug. I mean, you have guys who can't run the bases properly. You have guys who cannot play defense properly. This is the New York Yankees here. And we just, for 2 postseason series these past couple of weeks, the Yankees, they ran out 3 different starting shortstops and 4 different leadoff hitters. One of them being a 6'8" power hitter who swings and misses a lot. You're the New York Yankees, and you're still toying around and experimenting and trying to find the right pieces in the middle of October. So all the chances that Cashman had to get some legitimate hitters on this roster, legitimate fielders, legitimate baseball players, and somehow every year he spends $250 million on stopgaps and vets. I can't stop thinking about the last, you had 2 ginormous off seasons in the past 4, maybe 5 years. You know, Machado, Harper, Seager, recently Freeman, Olsen, Correa, Chapman. All these guys available, and then some, because I know that I am missing quite a few in these recent off seasons. And the Yankees, they walk away with DJ LeMahieu, Josh Donaldson, Ben Rortvedt, and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. Now, LeMahieu, who was in that same Machado Harper offseason, they picked him up. He started well. He did. He had a very good 2019 season. He had a remarkable COVID season in 2020. But then he got the extension, and since then, it's been nothing but injuries and underperformance. Josh Donaldson. Let's get recent here. He has been a joke. Yet, Aaron Boone has ran him out there time after time after time again, despite him never, once this season, really displaying a hot streak. I literally can't think back to any stretch of 10 games or more where Donaldson was hot. His best moments came where he swung the bat well over a series or 2. And that was very rare itself. His at-bats were horrendous in the playoffs. His excuse-making and lack of accountability to the media was pathetic. The body language and complaining to umps after he strikes out like it wasn't his fault is insane. So you're paying $25 million to this guy this season. Next year you got to do 25 more. You're paying money to IKF and that hologram Ben Rortvedt, who may as well not even be a real person. Instead of going and getting one of the top names. Like the Yankees had a plethora of options for shortstop this past offseason. But they chose to have a third baseman try shortstop instead. And instead of following true to their word and using him as a temporary stopgap IKF, they lied to us and they never really used Peraza. And they kept IKF out of position until the very last day of the postseason. Last night. And it clearly costed them. As we witnessed all regular season, as we witnessed in the DS, and as we witnessed in the CS. He was not good. They could have done so much, man. And I like, Rizzo. He was one of the few to produce for us this playoffs, but he might opt out, and you might be without a first baseman. And that wouldn't have been a problem if you signed a decent deal this past offseason, because you had someone like Freeman who killed it with the Dodgers this year. Check his numbers. You just had so many, just looking back, Cashman had so many opportunities to do shit. The second Machado was traded from Baltimore, the Dodgers and him make the World Series. And this year he made the NLCS. Harper just mashed his team to the World Series because he's a superstar who actually produces in the playoffs. And yes, that was a shot at number 99. At the deadline, the Yankees had a shot to really improve their team. So we're going even more recent. Obviously, Luis Castillo was the no-brainer, but I won't even kill Cashman for that because the Yankee pitching ended up being fine this fall. They didn't really pitch too bad. Their pitching wasn't the number one issue. And the Bader move, we gave him shit at the time, a lot of you did, but it paid off. Clearly, the kid raked. He had just as many home runs in the playoffs than he did all regular season. He raked. But you give away your only promising pitching prospect depth for a guy who sucked, got hurt, and then sucked again when he was barely used in the playoffs. And you had a prime shot to upgrade at third base, which nobody's talking about with Brandon Drury this trade deadline. He was moved somewhere else. The Yankees didn't even peak at third base. We're fine with Josh Donaldson, they said. The kid had a solid season, Drury. He could have came back and been good. You could have also, at the beginning of the year, just kept Gio last offseason and dumped Gary on his own. But instead, he decides to be a pal and help out the Twins clear their salary so they could get Correa. That's going to be one that just sticks in my head. They botched the shit out of that. All because they wanted to dump Gary. They have to do all this excessive shit. You could have made a case that they would have been better with just Gio and Gary, as much of a headache as Gary was, than getting Donaldson and IKF and a guy who never even played for you. You could. But I'm done. I'm tired of Cashman. The bottom line is every single postseason since 2017, we've had the same one single issue that knocks us out every year. So what does that say about the job you're doing? If it's the same one thing every year, that's on the GM. You get all the resources in the world, to fix it. Nope. Let's be cost effective, or let's waste the money that we do get on less talented players. So I am officially out on Cashman. I'm ready to go from him. I'm ready to move on. And Aaron Boone doesn't get any slack either. I'm done with that guy. I mean, I'm not a big Boone guy to begin with, but this guy, my goodness. Again, he played a role here by running these same zeros out there every single day and never being cutthroat with Donaldson, with IKF, not once. Changing the lineup every single game of the regular season, it felt like, and the majority of these postseason games as well. I mean, you had new shortstops, new left fielders, new leadoff hitters, guys playing out of position. It was insane. Not playing Carpenter in that Texas series, so he could at least have a couple of at-bats before he strikes out in every at-bat in the playoffs, was clearly a colossal mistake. Fans were calling for Peraza in late July, early August. He was also stubborn there. Nope, we'll stick with IKF. His bullpen management was atrocious. Going with Jamison Tyone, who's never pitched out of the bullpen in his life, in the 10th inning of an ALDS game. Ignoring Clay Holmes for Clark Schmidt in playoff games, a double-A pitcher who was only used in medium-low leverage spots when he was even here in the regular season, which wasn't much. And then he used Schmidt again after that. pulling your ace Garrett Cole from his outing the other day when he told you he was healthy, he was still under 100 pitches, and he was pitching fine. Leaving Cortez in the game too long yesterday when you knew he's been injured all postseason. I mean, the signs were there in the first and second inning. The velocity was dropped off. His pitches weren't moving. You could see that. And you can, people can talk about the nerds making the moves all they want. But it's really coming down to, with me, it's always came down to the lack of urgency. That's been my biggest gripe with Aaron Boone. The lack of accountability. It's just been absolutely gross. And that is on him. That's on him. Him being soft, that's him. He's been like this ever since coming here. That's why he was hired. All just never going to throw his play. You don't have to throw your players under the bus, but you can at least hold them accountable. But instead, he's going to blame the shadows. I remember he blamed the shadows once for a loss against, it was like a doubleheader game against Detroit. He blamed the cold weather before. This year, calling IKF one of the game's best shortstops, which is false, after a game where he made some pathetic, inexcusable mistakes at short. You had the Cashman quote before the season about the Astros being the reason that Cashman doesn't have another ring right now. And now, we fast forward to this week. Boone is out here blaming the roof being open for why they lost, and his players are out there blaming exit velocity. I mean, that was a joke by Sevi. But that's, where does it start? Management. It starts up top. He's going to be like that. His players are going to be like that too. The fish rots from the head down. This is the same loser we brought here to be, and I quote, the communicator with his players, because Girardi was apparently too mean. Yet we have instances like the Severino debacle in 2019, was it? I was at that game. That shitfest, by the way. And now we have instances where Harrison Bader in an ALCS game doesn't even know that he's the leadoff hitter. How does that happen, by the way? Where's the communication there? This is the playoffs. Don't you think that you should be 1,000% sure that your best postseason hitter knows where he's going to hit? Where they are in the diamond? Hold a meeting. Something. They should know. They should know. There should be no doubt, which means you should be face-to-face with him saying, hey, you're going to hit here. There should be no doubt that everybody knows where they are in the order on the diamond pregame. But instead of doing that, instead he spends his time FaceTiming David Ortiz to show his team videos of the Yankees choking in 2004 against the Red Sox as some kind of motivation. I mean, first of all, as ridiculous as that is, as bad of a taste as that is going to leave in your mouth, how do you even let that leak to the public? Where is their PR team? I was kind of joking about it the other day when I mentioned how the Yankees are like the Biden administration. But I'm kind of not joking. Like the way they are in their pressers, the way they speak to the media is sometimes it is rough to hear. So yes, it is time to shake it up. Cashman should be gone. He's officially a free agent, so the Yankees are right now without a GM. But I am sure, I just have this feeling, they will rework. They're going to be reworking another deal the second we speak. Because remember, Judge is a free agent now too, so they're going to do that very soon. Just like they reworked the deal with Boone last year. They gave him an extension. A joke. Hal is on his yacht. He's getting his revenue. He's making money off chicken buckets. He does not care. He's not a baseball guy. He said that before. But again, he's giving Cashman all the money to work with all these years. Yet we're getting bounced every single season. This series wasn't even competitive, man. It wasn't competitive. I mean, the games were close. The majority of the games were close. 3 out of 4 were close. But you got swept 4 games, 2 of them on your home field. That's not competing. Watch the at-bats of these Yankees during these games. That's not competing. You just had a postseason where you grinded. Your team grinded through all 5 games of the division series to barely beat the Cleveland Guardians, only to get swept by the Astros the very next series. In the past, and I'm disclaimer here because I am going to sound very old man here if I haven't already yet, so bear with me for these next couple minutes. But in the past, whenever the Yankees were eliminated from contention, George Steinbrenner did everything he could to get rid of the bad and bring in the good. Bring in new faces, get rid of the old faces, take out the trash. If this was George's Yankees, Arenado would be here the minute that he opts out of his contract. If he does. Trey Turner would be here, no question. Like, there wouldn't be a doubt. And by crazy chance that the Yankees do rebuild and scrap it all, which they should, I've said that multiple times, if they even think about doing that garbage manipulation of service time next year with Anthony Volpe, I am going to laugh my way into an insane asylum. It's going to be that kind of laugh, like you see in the movies. And Volpe, oh man, I feel bad for the kid, but he better be the real deal. The way, because I'm sick of the Yankees year after year trying to sell you these prospects. The baby bombers. What a joke that turned out to be. Gary Sanchez amounted to 0. Torres, I won't say amounted to 0, but he amounted to half of what he was touted to be. Garcia, Adams, Sheffield, they were all untouchables at one point. Not moving Andujar when he was at peak value a few years ago. I saw a tweet last night. Dombrowski has been to 4 different World Series with 3 different teams since Cashman has been to 1. Just let that sit with you. So the Yankees need a leadership change. Boone must go, yes, but Cashman must go first. But Hal won't, because he's buddies with Brian, and it's a comfort zone thing, and God forbid Hal Steinbrenner actually has to take a step outside his yacht and do some work for the team. But I don't know. Something has to change. And I go through this back and forth feeling of feeling confident that firings will happen within the next couple of weeks. But also at the same time, I feel like it will never change. And it's just very frustrating because I'm so confused. But I think that's all I have. So we're going to head to break and we'll wrap it up with the question of the day as soon as we get back. Yeah. It's so frustrating, man. So stick with us. Be right back. BD4 is located on many different platforms. You can listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, and if you do there, be sure to give us a 5-star rating and review. You can listen to it on Spotify, but you can also watch the podcast on both Spotify and YouTube. BD4 is available on many other platforms as well. All you got to do is search it up. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and much more. Welcome back to the show. Before we do get to the trivia question, I just want to say thank you to those who have tuned in all year. I appreciate all 2 of you. And I love the Yankees, man. All right, I'm a little tough on them. I get it, but I do spit the truth. I do like to believe that I have some kind of ration, and I am reasonable. And I want to see them win. But when you compile a team, the same team every year that just hits home runs and walks and strikes out, it's not going to help you win. Home runs are good. They help, especially today. I get that, but you do need some form of balance. And having all these 250 and below hitters, that's not going to work. Hitting still matters, no matter what the Zoomers on Twitter are going to tell you. No matter what the Yankees and their nerds tell you. Hitting will always matter. Hitting at a high clip matters. Singles aren't the same as walks. Hitting with runners in scoring position, putting the bat on the ball, they help. Singles, it helps. And every single Yankees World Series team has been like that. You had Matsui, you had the lefties, the contact hitters, you had the power, you had the great starting pitchers, you had guys who were durable. You just had a good balance. And this Yankees team does not have a great balance. Lots of flaws, and that goes back to the GM at the end of the day. So, I think it's best that we make some changes. Maybe Cashman retires. Maybe he steps down. Maybe Boone, maybe he gets fired. Gosh. And I know if Boone were to get fired, I can already hear Twitter, other baseball fans who don't know about the Yankees but just hate the Yankees and their fan base, and they hate everything New York, and they're just going to ride some narrative that Boone was a scapegoat. So before that happens, let me just get ahead of it and say, no, he's not a scapegoat. He has had some fault too. Like I said, the bottom line is whether you think he's making these decisions or not, he's soft. And you can't get led to a World Series by somebody who is soft. You can't win a title that way. Let's get to the trivia, and we'll wrap it up there. All right, let's do it. All right, so for this episode 424, our NYY-NYK-MMA question of the day is a simple one for you guys, all right? Will the Yankees ever win a World Series under both Cashman and Boone? All right, so this is an opinionated question today. Will this Yankees team ever win a World Series under both Cashman and Boone? Let me know what you think. All right. There's obviously no right or wrong answer, but I've certainly got my opinion. Will this Yankees team ever win a World Series under both Cashman and Boone? You let me know. That's it. That's it, guys. I'm out. I'll see you. I don't know when I'll see you next. We might have a legitimate episode where we just don't rant and we actually talk about what we should do going forward, who we should keep. What, it'll be longer, and maybe we'll have a guest join us for that. But this is the last Yankees episode for a bit. We're transitioning into Knicks, so I'm excited for their game tonight. I'm excited for the Knicks season, and I've said it before. The season that your sports team has, it's always about expectations. So the tone that I'm trying to word this right. The feeling that you leave with at the end of every season from your sports team is always about the expectation. So there's a chance that I'm happy at the end of this Knicks season. So there's a chance that the Knicks meet their expectation more than the Yankees. They come closer than the Yankees did to theirs. So there's a chance that I'm happier after watching this Knicks team than I am right now after witnessing the Yankees. Because the Knicks' expectation is just to make the play-in, the playoffs. Right? So there's a chance they can do that, and I'm satisfied. I'm content at the end of the year. Whereas I'm not with the Yankees because their expectation is to make or win the World Series. So I guess that's the way I'm trying to spin it, is that I could be more excited for the Knicks this way. But as for the Yankees, that's it for a while, guys. I'll see you in the offseason, and it's going to be a bit. So we are doing Knicks, and I'm going to try to get an MMA episode out sometime this week talking about 280, which just happened on Saturday. UFC 280 was excellent. So we'll talk about that. But for now, I'll see you in 425 when we'll talk Knicks Magic. But 424 in the books. Thanks to Yankees fans for tuning in. And I'm out, and I'll see you in the next one, guys. Yeah, it was very unfortunate, but are we shocked? No. Later. This episode was brought to you by Anchor.